Hi, Serena. Welcome to the Ticket Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be chatting about how customer research plays a crucial part of customer service strategy. So, would love for you to start by telling us a bit about your role over at Dovetail and how it aligns with the mission to improve customer experiences through research.
Thanks for having me, Bobby. Glad to be here. Yeah, Dovetail is a customer insights hub. And the work I do is in customer advocacy. I have a background in user research, consulting, and change management in that space. And so I work really closely with the customer success team, as well as the sales team, and also our customer teams of researchers, designers, product people to run workshops, assist in guiding them and coaching them in how to scale, not just Dovetail at their organizations, but more broadly, the culture change of driving customer centricity across different orgs. So that's really the heart of what I do. I also, hop on chats like this, help support our community lead with events and trying to build the broader kind of community within, research design and customer experience at large.
Such an important world and so cool to have you here. So, customer insights are a powerful catalyst for change. Can you explain why it's essential for businesses to leverage their data effectively in order to build products and services that are really going to resonate and really land with customers?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, everything's changing so quickly. The market, the technology, the customer needs, those are all changing so rapidly. So often people might think they know what customers need and operate off of assumption or operate off of just the loudest voice in the room. And other times people are really trying to understand the customer more deeply. And so it's like, how do we actually balance the intuition with the deep customer knowledge and try to actually weave a right balance of all that? There's also so much customer data that it's easy to just be inundated by that, right? So it's how do we actually make sense of the customer data and then have that deeply inform then the product and business decisions we're making. So we're not just operating off of assumptions and what we think we know is best.
And you mentioned how quickly things are changing. Do you find that often you'll be diving into the data and everyone's like, this is totally what it was. I know this better than anybody. And then the data tells a totally different story. Is that happening more frequently than maybe early in your career or anything?
Yeah, I mean, AI is such a hot topic, right? And it's so easy for people to just slap AI on something and be like, oh, we want AI this, AI that. But I think what we've done at Dovetail is try to be quite intentional with okay, we don't want to just slap AI onto Dovetail as an experience and say, yeah, we do AI. We actually took a bit of time to say, okay, well, let's talk to our users and think about how can we meaningfully leverage AI to improve their workflows and, what actually are their goals? How do they want to engage with AI? Is it that they want it to have it be more of this kind of automated black box kind of situation where it's data in and insights out? We found a lot of people don't trust that. So then from those insights learned, okay, designing for security and trust, especially with some of our largest enterprise customers, is crucial. That's just table stakes. Security teams will not go for anything less than that. And our end users want to know, okay, where is this coming from? What kinds of, findings can I then fine tune? So learning in that whole experience too of okay, this is a new technology. People have certain mental models already, but that's also growing and evolving and changing over time. And then how can we then ultimately design the best experience to deliver something that's valuable to our end users and then keep iterating over time? Because again, all of those things are changing too.
That's so well said. And it's funny, or I find it funny, when you'll see a company that's AI for Bobby's ice cream. We will now fix your text editor. And it's yeah, man, that was cool a year ago, but we've moved on from that. Or it's that and all these other things. And so talking to customers and pulling those insights, like you said, that's just got to stay connected to it. So you often talk about democratizing customer centricity. Can you elaborate on what does that mean and why is it important for every team member to think and advocate on behalf of customers?
Yeah. I started in customer success and have always worked really closely with customer success folks, support teams. So that is very much my home. And as you know, we're in the business of talking to customers day in, day out and solving bugs and pain points and fielding the feature requests. and trying to, basically deeply advocate for our customers. We built the San Francisco team here at Dovetail because we have customers around the world and we want to better be able to communicate with them on the sales, customer success, and support teams. Realizing that our customers give us the most like golden nuggets when it comes to feedback and input and helping us better understand like, okay, not only what are the problems here, but broadly the opportunity space. We're still kind of in that category creation part where it's like you ask people what's an insights hub and they're like, I don't really know. So we're figuring that out as we go and really doing that in conjunction with our customers and what their needs are in the space. So at the end of the day, like I think there's a lot of polarization around the term democratizing research. Understandably so. Like we have lots of customers who are PhDs in research methods and have many decades under their experience. There are certain methods that do require that rigor and experience. And I really admire them for the expertise they bring to the room. I heard the kind of reframe from Eniola Abioye, who's a UX research lead at Meta and also runs UX Out Loud, which helps people early in their careers get into UX. And she kind of reframed it as maybe what we're really trying to do is democratize customer centricity. Because then it doesn't matter what your formal title is. If you're talking to customers, how can we really try to harness those insights and share it more broadly? And how can we get more people either talking to customers or engaging with customer data and customer insights? So I think that's what we're ultimately trying to do. Even at Dovetail, we, have so many people who are talking to customers day in, day out on the go-to-market team and really trying to focus on how can we really leverage those golden nuggets, share that back with our product team in Sydney, create regular touch points. I run a monthly customer showcase across our entire company where that's basically a ritual where I build it out in Dovetail and I create highlight reels and say, this is what we're hearing from customers. This is the kind of, customer feedback we're getting, the customer love. This is how it all actually ties to our broader product strategy and business strategy initiatives. So I try to find ways too to like weave in the storytelling aspect because that's what's honestly going to influence people at the end of the day and get people to care and rally around like, why does this actually matter? And what are we actually trying to build here?
Yeah. And we have a lot of support folks who listen to this podcast, and I'm sure this really resonates with them. Like often support folks can feel like they're the ones like trying to get people to care about this. It's like, hey, product teams, like, look at this, like customers are saying X, Y, and Z, or like this could be way better. And they're like, no, we have our own roadmap. Or it's like, oh, prove it to me. And you're like, I'm over here doing this whole other job. I can prove it to you, or I can try. And becomes a whole thing. And so I love that idea of just like getting everybody to care, and like that's everyone's job. And yeah, you don't need to have some like maybe methodical whatever to put that, to put that compelling story together.
Yeah, and to like literally put people in the position of building that empathy for the end user and also for our like frontline staff. We do have as part of our onboarding at Dovetail support for the day as part of your onboarding, where you will sit there and answer tickets in the queue, emails, Slack messages that come through in our like public Slack. And I think that also helps people, start at Dovetail with a perspective of understanding like, oh, these are the kinds of questions. These are the, frustrations that we're hearing over and over. Wow, we actually are quite fortunate as a company to have a really engaged customer base who also gives us great feedback. So I think it helps in a way too that's pretty baked into our culture at Dovetail, where we do strive to put the customer first and deeply understand what the customer needs are. But it's also hard to make time to always do that when, other teammates have different, competing priorities and their calendars are booked with all their other meetings. But we do try to find ways to, bring more product folks to, sit along on customer calls or, jump in the queues and assist with tickets.
Love that. Service design is a critical aspect of customer experience. What are some key considerations when designing a customer onboarding experience to make sure that it's effective and it's memorable?
Yeah, we realize that as, a product-led growth company, you still require human touch points, whether it's in, the sales process, the onboarding process, ongoing support. So we think a lot about how can we best serve our customers, not just in the product and in our features, but also in our human touch points and in the onboarding flows as well. So anywhere from your first reaching out to our sales team for a demo to then kicking off with a customer success team, we are in the process of continuing to grow our customer success team. And that's been a great joy of my time working at Dovetail, is joining as CSM number 2, the first one based here in SF. And then when we moved into the office, having, a team of 5 and continuing to grow today. So that's been a joy to figure out as a team, like, okay, now that we actually have more people and we've got people who are quite experienced, how do we bring our brains together and design an experience that our customers feel excited, they feel aligned in terms of what that onboarding strategy is and how that ladders up to their internal team goals, and also feel really resourced, because so often we're partnering really closely with some internal champions who maybe have used Dovetail before, or the ones who really see the bigger picture vision of having all the customer data centralized, and they want to, get the rest of their team on board, or even want to get leadership buy-in. So we partner quite closely from day one to really make sure we're aligned on what their goals are, what are the customer goals, and then how can we design an onboarding experience that really helps them succeed in their goals while getting the most out of Dovetail as a platform. Because at the end of the day, Dovetail is just a tool. And if we can't help people do what they're trying to do, then we failed. So a lot of it is not just about, training people how to use the tool itself, but it's around saying, we actually really want to streamline our research efforts. We really want to be able to surface what we already know about customers. We want to be able to reuse existing customer insights. So starting from that place, then we can say, okay, well, then we're going to start with training people on these features and getting into the nitty gritty of the tool itself. And then so much of it too is just socializing, as you're trying to build this momentum and culture change internally. It's about saying, why does this even matter? And it's a bit of that internal kind of branding, which I think often can be hard to do in addition to the work you're already doing. So if you're, someone, whether you're, customer facing, or if you're a researcher or a designer, we all have our day-to-day jobs to do. And there's also that element of almost branding and marketing the value and importance of your work. And so we also kind of assist with that. And another session that I run with our customer teams is a show and tell, where we invite a range of people, whether you're, brand new to Dovetail and wanting to learn more, or someone who's already been involved in a lot of our onboarding and training, to our champions, who then we start with them showing recent work that they actually did in Dovetail and speaking to, they share their screen, actually walk through their project, the different views they've set up, how they've actually gone and done, anything from bringing in the data to analysis, creating highlight reels, and how that really wowed their stakeholders, how their stakeholders, received that when they actually shared out findings with them. And then it's a great way to really spark that kind of inspiration and to see the practical, oh, this is actually not just how you use the tool, but how you drive change and influence at the organization.
Yeah, and I think that's such practical advice and probably top of mind for a lot of teams, whether support people or not. And I like those nuggets of thinking about where are you using a human versus maybe using AI or just some in-product guidance. And then that idea of helping designing a process around the customers, what their problems are, what they're looking for, and then maybe giving some nudges along the way, because maybe they don't quite exactly know what that is, and trying to make that really simple. Something we've been thinking a lot about here at Intercom when we got, the feedback of it's hey, if you know how to use Intercom, great, but otherwise it can feel like you're just assuming that we already know, and it's it could be a lot to jump into. So finding that balance.
Yeah, the learning curve can be very steep. And so we've realized even over the last year, and different people learn in different ways too. So we can't just expect everyone to jump in and grok it right away. Some people really want to do their homework. And so we launched Dovetail Academy last year, which is really short, small, learn as you go modules, and anything from getting started to more advanced kind of analysis, best practices and tips with some homework built in. So if you want to kind of go at your own pace and learn as you go, that's one great resource. And then that we also realize that so often we're working with people on the ops team, whether they're a research ops or kind of, product ops, and they're the ones enabling the rest of their team. So it became a challenge of how do we best enable our customers to enable their teams? And so we're trying to, give them the resources, give them, also, even if it's some of those short, snappy videos to do that internal marketing basically of Dovetail and why they've invested all this time and money and energy into building a customer insights hub. Empowering our champions to then be the catalyst internally has been a big focus for us recently.
You touched on this a little bit before. Collaboration between research and product teams is crucial for achieving business goals. What are some best practices to really build this collaboration within organizations?
We're seeing a lot within our customer base, this embedded model where a researcher is working with a product designer and a product manager. And I think in having that structure, it actually does force a bit more collaboration rather than like research happens over here, they throw the findings over the wall, and then product goes and does what they might with it. So I think that model can be helpful in some ways, especially as we're essentially trying to bring more people into the practice of talking to customers regularly and then figuring out how to make sense of that. And we already see a lot of product designers and product managers doing things like, exploratory interviews, concept testing, usability testing. So it's already in their wheelhouse. They're already talking to customers. It's just a matter of saying like, oh, how can we all make sure that like this is all living in the same place, not living in, whoever's private online folder or desktop, laptop, or lost in, some Excel spreadsheet. So part of it too is saying like, okay, we're already talking to customers. How do we make sure that it's all living in the same place? How do we make sure that we then also build ways of working to share those findings and drive accountability? I think that's kind of the really challenging piece. And even from like a CS and support approach, right? Like we're talking to customers day in, day out. It can be so challenging to like close the loop internally with our stakeholder teams, whether they're, product folks or otherwise, and then also close the loop like with our customers. So I think that's actually where go-to-market teams are quite powerful because we have a bias of really being accountable to our customers. So it actually is a good opportunity to say like, okay, hey, escalating to product team, I have so many of these customers within this market or segment or, plan size. Say we're dealing with like the biggest premium customers who all have the same issues. That gives me so much power to actually then drive that, up to the product team. And then the best feeling is being able to complete the loop with the customer and say, oh yeah, we've now prioritized that into the roadmap. But in terms of our larger customer teams, I know it's often harder at a much larger organization. Dovetail is still about 100 people. So it's much easier to then have those forms of collaboration. But at the larger customer teams, I am seeing people find success in these kind of embedded models where you then naturally build a bit more collaboration across these different functions. And then also finding ways to really influence through like this power of getting a highlight reel of a customer giving feedback in front of your stakeholders. At the end of the day, like that's often what I hear is the most powerful thing is for someone to, having heard feedback from a customer, be able to send over or just hit play on like a 20-second clip that might actually include, multiple pieces of feedback from different customers. And then the whether it's a product team member or like leadership, then they're like, oh, wow, I really get it. So there's nothing quite as powerful from hearing directly from the source.
It can feel like a lot to maybe ask a customer to record a video, but I find more often than not, people are willing and chomping at the bit to share that feedback. It's like, hey, can you record this 20-second video so I can send it to this product manager or so I can send it over to our research team who I know is studying this? Like, customers will be a hell yes to that. And like you said, it can be a really compelling way to make your point. And then again, to like really kind of be bringing all these teams together around this common goal.
And I think so many of us are still trying to figure out the best way to do that. And it's naturally a very challenging thing because depending on the maturity of your organization and the size and the structure, and like at Dovetail, like we have a team in SF and a team in Sydney. And so we're not just navigating the silos that can happen across different functional orgs, but also across like continents. So figuring out like, how do we keep building these cadences internally to stay in the loop? So for us, our product marketing function actually has now become a very natural bridge. Half the team's in Sydney, half is in SF. So partly by just geographical makeup, and then also as a function that works really closely with go-to-market and product to basically like align everyone around, customer feedback, positioning, messaging, and releases. So that for us has been a way that we've been able to build that bridge. And we're still figuring it out. I think most of us are. If any of the listeners have figured it out, please let us know.
Dovetail works with some of the world's largest brands. Can you share any success stories of how like the Dovetail platform helped a company improve customer service through customer insights?
Yeah, I worked really closely with Mayo Clinic, who's one of our, largest healthcare accounts. And I have a background in healthcare as well and worked in the health tech space. So it was a very natural fit. And we work with their team that's in the Center for Digital Health. So lots of user researchers, user designers, and they've done a range of projects. I mean, they're working across many different pillars, building solutions for their providers, for their patients, for their, website, and also for their campuses. So they recently actually did a project around improving wayfinding on their campuses. So even in terms of like physical space, user experience, but then also working on a lot of, how to leverage AI and ML for improving tools for their providers. So they're working across a lot of different experiences. They also have been undertaking, kind of revisiting their personas across all of their different campuses and pillars and products. So that's been an iterative process for them. And, they've told us that like Dovetail very much has been a partner in how they've like been growing and shaping their kind of research culture and customer centricity culture where, they start with Dovetail. Dovetail provides a bit of structure, forces them to like think about how they're approaching certain aspects of their research. They then realign as a team around their research culture. And then that also then informs how they use Dovetail. So it's been great to partner with them over the last few years and also see them, growing and expanding. And I've had the joy of being able to join them in person for one of their, twice a year research retreats out in Phoenix and be able to, run some workshops with their team. So yeah, that's been, and we learned so much from them too. So a lot of their super users are part of our champion program and have given us great insights in terms of some of the, beta testing and giving us input on our product development as well.
That's awesome. Well, looking ahead, what trends or innovations do you see shaping the future of customer research?
I think that we're going to be talking to customers even more often and maybe in more quote unquote casual contexts. If you're thinking about like research as a capital R, finding ways to do more kind of rapid feedback and prototyping because everything is changing so fast. Research is now less and less its own siloed function. Part of that is the challenges of budget cuts and layoffs, and also people realizing that the power of understanding customers maybe doesn't or shouldn't only lie within research. So that's kind of part of like the democratizing customer centricity. And I think it's actually an opportunity for those in a research function to really claim that seat at the table and be more strategic. Like we all can be more strategic as a whole, whether you're in CS or support or research or design. I think design has kind of led that a bit in the last handful of years and really kind of having that seat at the table. But with research, I mean, so much of it is also bringing people along the journey of like, oh yeah, how do you talk to customers? How do you run a good interview guide? How do you ask good open-ended questions? How do you do some deep listening and then share out like what those key insights are? So I think research as a practice will hopefully be more generalizable regardless of your role. And at the end of the day, help us all ask better questions and build better empathy for other people.
That's personally really exciting. And I think of our own team where before members of our research team would have to spend all this time like categorizing and classifying and all of these insights and probably take them hours and hours. And now like, yeah, AI and technology is making that like super fast and easy. And they're like, cool, we're not just going to get rid of the research team. This is like time back that we can now like go talk to customers. And so that definitely really resonates of like more face-to-face, more hearing directly from them, which again seems like a really great blend along with, this future world where we have tons of data and insights on anything and everything. So
yeah, we're doing something similarly. We're trying to definitely iterate more and build more with our customers, understanding that a lot of this is still quite new, especially when you're dealing with like AI stuff. So trying to figure out like how can we really design something that matches the needs and mental models of our customers. And part of that is just getting it in front of people and getting those reactions and then continuing to tinker as we go. So in a way, like rather than in the past, people might run multi-month research projects. Those may still happen, but I think as research is then, getting more involved in like the product development process, which I think is key. Like what you're saying earlier, right? Like how can research and product work more closely together? I think it's actually being woven in to the product development lifecycle and saying it's really important to not just test this once we have completed like fully working feature. It's like, oh no, what about testing a mock-up? What about testing the concept? What about testing, much earlier and getting the inputs then? Because otherwise we've wasted however much money and product development only to find out like, oh wait, that's not exactly what resonates with our customers.
That didn't land. So awesome. Well, thanks so much for talking with me today, Serena. It's been an absolute blast. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.